right, so for those of you who haven't caught it yet, this was an interview with Shannon Sharpe and Amanda Seales. This interview has been causing quite a stir. At one particular moment, which I'm going to be pointing out, Shannon posed a question that ignited some controversy, prompting Amanda to respond with her own thoughts. Now, what's essential to point out here, which I will be talking about here in this video, are the things she mentions and how Shannon responded to them. What seemed like he tried to downplay it as if she was wrong by saying that she was right, and bad at the same time for trying to correct an adult as a child or student in this sense.
OCO, freethinkers. You're now tuned into the realest historian on the planet, the best teacher you wished you had in school. Have your pens and paper handy and get ready to take notes. It's Dane Calloway on I'm Just Here to Make You Think Radio.
While Shannon wasn't really feeling Amanda's response to his questions, some of you wouldn't believe what she said at this point in the interview. So I'm going to play it for you right now and point out some key takeaways from this portion of the interview you might have missed.
There were a lot of parent-teacher conferences with you, huh?
Yes, but not for what do you think they were about?
Your excessive talking, maybe the doodling.
Funnily enough, no. You know what the parent-teacher conferences were about?
What?
Amanda is sticking up for other kids in the class. Amanda is correcting me. Like, I had a teacher, Miss Schwenk, who called a conference because she was talking about Aboriginal art. Mm-hmm. And she said that she stood in front of the class and said, you know, that the Aborigines are a Stone Age people. And I was like, ma'am, there are Aboriginals alive right now. Like, they are a part of civilization. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, well, no, you know, what I mean is that they've never advanced. And we're in a classroom in Orlando, Florida. So, like, if we don't check this type of stuff, it's gonna just continue. So I was that student. Like, I was the kid who was always raising my hand and just wasn't easily appeased by simply just someone being an authority.
Right.
And
Now, I feel as though she was right based on the personal altercation she just explained about her correcting her teacher for providing false information to the students in her class in her high school. I was also one of those students in the 90s who spoke up for other students and myself when I heard a teacher stating false information. And I knew that I could correct them with accurate information while the class was in progress. I'll stand right up. Or I could be sitting down, I'll just make sure that I'm, using an authoritative tone to correct the teacher with the accurate information. I'll even question it, like, where are you getting this information from? So why are we being taught that when that's absolutely not true? That shouldn't even be a part of the curriculum. Yes, I was one of those type of people, and I'm sure every single student that was a part of my classes will attest to that. It is true. I mean, I'm smiling about it now, but it's true because I was one of those type of students that didn't let the BS fly. That's not gonna happen. Now, some of you may say that my speaking up was interrupting the class, but I disagree. In a classroom setting, adults should not be the only ones allowed to speak freely. Students should also be able to participate by asking questions and sharing their thoughts, okay? Especially when it's true. Additionally, it's important for us to speak up when we know that the information presented about our people's history is inaccurate, particularly when it comes from a foreigner who may not fully understand our story. Okay, we are the Aboriginal people of America. I've been teaching about this for years now, and we still exist. It is obvious that we are being mislabeled and misclassified nowadays as Black people or African Americans, as if everyone came from Africa, when that has never been proven by anyone. Still today, it was always an unproven theory because we allowed foreigners to write the history books that are being used and taught in schools that we attend. This is also why I feel as though Amanda was right to correct her teacher. If we allow the teachers to get away with stating that we are Stone Age people, that will mean that we no longer exist. And Blacks and African Americans have always been labeled as such, when that is absolutely not true. They are misnomers. I'm not going to get too far into that. If you want more information about that, it's all throughout my channel. Just start with my older videos to learn more. Let's continue.
And I love this because when she called my mom and said, I'd like to set a conference up because I have some complaints about Amanda. My mom said, well, that's interesting because Amanda has some complaints about you.
With that accent, we know her mom from the Caribbean
And so they
Islands.
came to the meeting. It was my mom and Mr. Wright and Miss Cersei. It's all Black people at Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando, Florida. And this lady sat there and actually you and Mr. Wright had the same build. And Mr. Wright was like, all right, so, we're here to discuss Amanda disrupting the class with her talking. And she was like, no, Amanda doesn't disrupt the class with her talking. She actually helps the other students out. He's like, oh, okay. So is it about her grades? And she's like, actually, no. One of her art pieces is featured in our exhibit at the library. And he's like, so what are we here for? And she's like, well, she corrects me in front of the class. And these three Black people are like, here we go with this racist bullshit, because that's really what it is. We're in Florida in the 80s and the 90s. And
But let me ask you this.
Okay.
Do you think she would have felt equally as offended if a white kid, because I'm assuming this teacher was white, right? Mm-hmm. If a white child would have corrected her, I think most teachers would feel some type of way if a child corrects them.
Again, she is allowed to correct a teacher who is providing misinformation to her class of students. There is no rule stating that it shouldn't happen because that is not how learning works. But I want y'all to notice how Shannon is trying to twist Amanda's narrative here by saying that he believes that no adult wants to be corrected by a child. Okay? And that's your typical beta male, tail stuck up between the legs type shit. Because that is not the point she is making. You see her face? Like, what? He is afraid of questioning any type of authority. So he's going to make it seem as if she was wrong for questioning an adult by making it seem as if any adult would feel bad for being corrected by a child, when that part doesn't matter. If it's wrong, then it's wrong. If you are a child who is old enough and knowledgeable enough to know it is wrong, then there is nothing wrong with correcting it. And you have to speak up in order for that to happen, right? If, for instance, I'm visiting a place, right, and I'm not familiar with it, and mistakenly read the GPS directions in my car, and my son is with me. My son is with me, and despite him being a child, he is old enough and knowledgeable enough to recognize if I'm following the wrong GPS directions, okay? In this scenario, if he says something to ensure that we stay on the right track to reach our destination, then there's nothing wrong with that. Here's another example. God forbid that your child was touched inappropriately by an adult. If that happened, wouldn't you want your child to speak up and tell an adult? Like you, maybe? Think about that. If you're teaching your child not to speak up when it is necessary to do so, then you are inadvertently placing a muzzle around your child's mouth that could last for a lifetime.
It's not for me to surmise. I'm just saying that my experience was this lady giving wrong information.
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to correct her. Now, this is the same lady who tried to accuse me of stealing. And when a white girl said, no, Amanda didn't steal it, I did, she was like, well, I think both of you need to go to the principal.
Right.
I'm in Orlando, Florida, which is a notoriously racist state.
Oh. Now, as she's explaining it again, look at his body language. That's not a person that's listening. That's a person that feels disgusted. That's a person that feels afraid. That's a person that's feeling concerned, because she's the type of person that, okay, she can respect authority, but not to the point where the authority is being disrespectful. And that's what she's trying to elaborate on right here. I'm about to go back, but his body language is giving off the, oh, you shouldn't be doing this tone. Why are you doing this? Hey man, I'm trying to bring you back to his reality. That's what he's trying to do. So let me come back a little bit.
And when a white girl said, no, Amanda didn't steal it, I did, she was like, well, I think both of you need to go to the principal.
Right.
I'm in Orlando, Florida, which is a notoriously racist state, Florida, in the 90s. And I'm talking to you about a white woman who is speaking about black people, indigenous people in a country where those same indigenous people have had all of their land taken from them by former criminals that were sent there from England. And she is calling them Stone Age people. And I, as a black girl, the only black girl in her class, am correcting her.
But my thing.
Well, I want to hear your thing. Acknowledge what she just said. Stop right there. See, listen. See, this is what I'm talking about. She just elaborated more about her, more specifically correcting a person of authority. She didn't break a rule. She also stated that black people are the indigenous people. You heard that, right? Hold on. Come back.
Woman who is speaking about black people, indigenous people in a country where those same indigenous people have had all of their land taken from them by former criminals that were sent there from England.
She's absolutely correct. Right there is all of that is correct.
And she is calling them Stone Age people. And I, as a black girl, the only black girl in her class, am correcting her.
But my thing is,
stop. Notice how he got to twist it around. He got to control that narrative. Y'all got to understand that it be the people that look just like you and I that are set there to try to control the narrative. That's what he's getting paid to do. You're going to look at it. Some of you are going to look at it as if this is being innocently done, and it's not. It's being purposely done. She stated that black people are the indigenous people, and their land was stolen by way of people that were sent here from England who were criminals. She's absolutely correct. That's called the UK. That's the bloody code by way of UK. That's called the bloody code. They did send their criminals over here by way of transportation. In fact, that was their sentencing. Transportation. They were damning people to another landmass to do time in a totally different landmass. The people that they were sending over here first were criminals, crooks, but they were also sending slaves over here that were, sex slaves. That's what they were sending over here too. Men and women. And they were sending kidnapped children over here. That's true. Now, did they take the lands right away? No. Okay. But eventually our land was stolen. Okay. Now our people nowadays don't realize that this happened to our people because the same group of foreigners had our minds focused on us coming from Africa, when that is absolutely not true. We were always here. Those people came by the boatload. Again, I explain this throughout my entire channel, but I just want to show y'all how Shannon came in here because he wanted to quickly go back, okay, to attempting to control the narrative. He cut her off. She didn't even complete her sentence because he didn't want her to go any further. And he heard her tone change. Her tone changed with authority.
You're right. She possibly misspoke or she didn't know.
I guess my question to you is, why do you even feel compelled at this juncture in this interview? Why would you even feel compelled to try to
Because I'm not defending.
Yes, you
are. But my thing...
You're defending, okay, not only are you defending the white teacher, but what you're doing is trying to control the narrative. You're being defensive. You're not acknowledging what she's stating. You just said, right. But that doesn't mean you agree.
Is that what I'm trying to say?
It's not about what you're trying to say.
Most adults, when kids correct them or speak, feel some type of way. This is not unique to a black, white, or white, black. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm sorry that you took it that way. But I remember when I was growing up, my grandparents and parents said, hey, kids, stay in your place. Adults are speaking. That's all. Maybe that didn't happen where you were from in Orlando, Florida. But where I grew up, when I grew up, kids did not correct adults.
The silent treatment.
So I apologize if you thought it came off as combative.
No problem.
I'm talking about, you know what? This is so funny. That silent treatment says a lot because the first person to speak up after silence lost. I like that she went silent right here in her response because Shannon just proved my point. He's a beta male. He's afraid to question authority or correct a person of authority. He basically said that he grew up not being able to speak his mind. And in turn, those type of children grow up to be deeply indoctrinated adults who would not speak up for themselves when the time is necessary to do so. Okay. Now we know this to be true because using Shannon as an example, if we use Shannon as an example, right? We know this. Shannon allowed an old white man to publicly belittle him as a grown man on his previous talk show or sports talk show, right? Shannon allowed it to be broadcast all over the nation. And guess what? He didn't respond. Now, some of you may feel as though that was the bigger thing for Shannon to do, but I disagree because you're giving him an excuse not to respond when it's necessary to do so. Okay? By correcting a person in a professional manner. That don't mean you gotta get out of character. You correct them professionally. There's nothing wrong with doing that. No matter if the person holds a title above your pay grade. Now, another thing I wanted to point out, this is a picture of Amanda Seales and her mother. Now, notice how she gave her mother a island accent. Her mother's from Grenada. Okay, that's close to Trinidad, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I want y'all to notice something. We call that area South America, but they don't. They call that the West Indies, and they have been for years. They don't call it South America. We call it South America. Okay? But the reason why I'm pointing that out is because even she knows. Okay? I also want to point out that Amanda has a broken relationship with her father. This is her pops. That's her mother. Okay? Apparently there's no information out right now on her father, but they're trying to state that he is indigenous to this land. Okay? And they married each other or whatever. The point is that I need y'all to see that a lot of people are using the term Black and African American to bring themselves on board with our stories. Okay? The terms African American and Black allows people to, who are not indigenous to this land, allows people to cling on to those terms and state that we are the same people. Amanda Seales and her mother right now has dual citizenship. You can look this up. Her mother and her, they both have dual citizenship right now. Is that a problem? Yes. Let me explain something. The reason why that is a problem, this is Amanda and that's her mom. They look just alike. The reason why this is a problem is because anybody that has dual citizenship, listen to me closely. Anybody that has dual citizenship are not being labeled Black. Nobody that has dual citizenship are being labeled Black. Now, they were saying that Amanda Seales was born in California, and then they moved to Orlando, Florida in 1989. Okay, and by the time 1995 came, I believe she was 14, if I'm not mistaken, if I got my math right. because she was born in 1981. Yeah, that makes her 14. So that's ninth grade. That's when she started that high school that she mentioned, Dr. Phillips. Now, she was stating that the area of Orlando, Florida during the 90s. I noticed that she said 80s, 90s. She wasn't there in the 80s. In fact, that school just came about in 1987. But, I mean, you know, she was elaborating on her stuff a little bit, but she was a little bit wrong for saying that. She misspoke right there. But she was definitely there in the 90s. Okay? 1995 to be exact, because that's when, it starts from ninth grade on up. That's a high school. So she's saying that she experienced racism then. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't see how. When she also explained that it was 3 black people. Remember she said that in the interview? She said that it was 3 black people in this meeting, along with her white teacher. The principal was black. What are you talking about? What racism? What do you mean? Because you saying that was Orlando, Florida was super racist. But if that was the case, a black principal wouldn't exist. Black teachers wouldn't exist. Black staff members wouldn't exist. You being in that school wouldn't exist. Because here's another thing. At the time when she attended that school was predominantly white. They wouldn't have allowed that if it was a lot of racism going on. I'm not saying that racism didn't exist, but not to the extent that she was trying to impose. Now, I believe she was doing that in order to emphasize with Shannon, like, hey, be on my side here. But Shannon had his own agenda in trying to control that narrative. Was she wrong for spilling the beans about the indigenous people? No. But she was wrong to make pretend like she was a part of that struggle. Again, she's being classified as white guaranteed right now because her and her mother are dual citizens. Her career started at either Disney or Nickelodeon, something like that, at when she was 11 or 12 years old. 1992. 12 years old. What people need to understand is that they are putting a lot of people in the forefront that look like us that could regurgitate our real history. Why? Because they studied it. She has a master's degree from Columbia University in African American Studies. I'm gonna tell you right now, the majority of our people would not go have a master's degree in something that they already know about. But if you don't know about it and you would love for a stranger to tell you all about it, you'll go study it and master in it. They said it was specifically in hip hop as far as her degree is concerned. So not only did she learn the culture, she learned some traditions, she learned the history. That way she could fit in. It's a lot of famous people that came from that same high school she went to. DJ Khaled went to that same high school. That comedian Wayne Brady went to that same high school. It was a lot of people. It's a lot of celebrities went to that same high school. So technically she was privileged. As far as her experiencing racism, I'm gonna call her bluff. Because the area you grew up in, that was all full of, that was diverse. It was mixed. I went to high school I went to a high school that's very similar to the high school she went to. I went to Woodrow Wilson Senior High School in Washington, D.C. I graduated from Alice Dale Junior High School in Washington, D.C. These are schools that were uptown where a lot of people were like whites and Chinese, Hispanics, everybody was there. People from the islands, it was diverse. And you can't sit up there and say you experienced racism when you were privileged. You were in a privileged position. Again, a lot of celebrities graduated from that high school. A lot. Not just 1 or 2. And you were one of them. You're an alumni of that high school. And don't try to put it down to make it seem like, since you on a so-called black show, so people could relate to you. I don't like that. I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't like that. Because again, when I see that you and your mom have dual citizenship, I'm not knocking you for that. You do what you gotta do, but that automatically means that you're labeled white. Automatically. And on a census. You're not marking yourself down as black nowhere on those IDs, guaranteed. When you're coming from a totally different country, you are immediately counted as white, not black. The only people that can consider themselves black on their IDs are the people that are born here for real. Like they saying that you were born in Cali, but you got dual citizenship. You were not ever labeled black. Ever. Your mother made sure of that. Your mother did a good job. She made sure that you had that white privilege. And that's what you're trying to hide. Okay? That's what you're trying to hide, to make yourself more relatable. I could read right through that. Now, you know, and that's not fair, because there are people over here right now, and I need y'all to understand this. There are people over here, again, that look like you and I, that will portray themselves to be one thing when they're actually another. Like right now, for example, with her being an actress, I want y'all to look at all the movies that have recently came out within the past 5 to 10 years. It's very rare that they utilize actors and actresses who are indigenous to this landmass to play roles of characters who are supposed to be representing indigenous people of this landmass. They're always utilizing foreigners. Always. It won't ever fail. Again, yes, your Grenada was colonized by the French, if I'm recalling it correctly. The Grenada was colonized by the French as far as your mother's situation is concerned. But y'all made y'all way over here to America, okay? Keep in mind, your territory doesn't call themselves America. Your territory does not call themselves South America. Your territory called themselves the West Indies. I'm not saying that we not brothers and sisters, but you gotta understand that your people are indigenous to their landmass. Our people are indigenous to this landmass, okay? There's nothing wrong with that, but you got to understand that your struggle is not the same as ours. And I don't want people to understand. I want people to understand that we cannot allow other people to pretend like they're going through the same struggle as we are when they're not, especially when they got dual citizenship. And that's on record. That's not fair to my people. And you portraying yourself, and see, you're a great actor. You've been an actor since you was 12. So of course you could put on a role and put on a front. This should be alarming to people. Even though I'm talking about, notice how she was stating everything right. But if you really look at it and open up the curtain for real, she's dual citizenship. Immediately she's not so-called black. Immediately. Again, because black and white has nothing to do with the skin complexion. For those people that don't know where I'm coming from. Black and white is a status within this government. You don't have to have pale skin to be considered white. There's no such thing as black skin. Black and white had nothing to do with skin complexion. White has a particular privilege. In fact, go back and watch my video called The Creation of Black and White People. It's on my channel right now if you want more information. Because I'm gonna leave it like this. She was right on what she stated because she relate to us. Not with dual citizenship. No, she cannot. Is she indigenous? Yes, but not to North America. Okay? So call it, again, that's a lot of people latching themselves on to blackity black, and they slipping people in easily. And she did not grow up. That's like how the civil rights movement happened. A lot of people clinging on to a movement to make pretend like they were going through a struggle when they were not. All of them were privileged. All of them went to college and had college degrees, had money. Their family was wealthy. They weren't poor. They weren't struggling. People got to realize what it was about. It's all good. You're going to wake up. Those of you that already woke up, I got a fresh cup of coffee for you. Go ahead and sip it. Those of you that's still trying to wake up, once you wipe that coal up out your eye, leave a comment and let me know. I got more videos on the way for you. I'm Dane Calloway, and I'm just here to make you think.
I'm just here to make you think.
Slow down. Yeah. Sub up, light up.